Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here with Tresenia. She is visiting us today from her pool. Like, this is so amazing. And I was telling her before the call, I'm like, I'm going to try not to be too excited, but I just love the backdrop that she's offering today. So, hello, everyone that's joining us, probably on the replay. This is 20-minute mindset. I was doing this show back in 2020. I took a little break and now we're back in 2021. So I'm so excited to have Tresenia here. The reason I have her on is because she's a former client who is amazing. She shared her story on my podcast, and that podcast is coming live on Monday, September 20th. So make sure you go to Cami Kennedy Mindset Show on Apple, on Spotify to listen to her story. But I invited her on today just to chat a little bit about mindset. But first, Tresenia, could you just introduce yourself to the world and let us know what you do?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on, Cami. You have been such an instrumental person in my growth. And so I just want to start from a place of gratitude. For all of those who don't know me, hello, my name is Tresenia Griffin. I coach artists, creatives, and spiritual entrepreneurs how to level up their marketing and their tech stack. I also offer a package that you can buy to onboard various tech stacks. So like if you wanted to hire a VA and you needed to know all the things that you would need to tell her, I've got a package put together. I also do one-on-one trainings. So if you yourself are interested in learning any piece of the tech that I am particularly good at, and there's a lot, I do offer one-on-one coaching for technology learners.
I love this. And just as an offside note, I have a Facebook group I'm going to invite you to. It's literally spiritual entrepreneurs. And we were just on a mastermind call the other day, and people are getting their website set up for the first time and they're feeling overwhelmed. So I'm going to make sure I connect you to that group.
Oh my
because
gosh,
there are
I
a
would love
lot
that.
of people. Yeah, there are a lot of people who could use your services, and they're good at what they do, but they get stuck in like the things are not good at what they do.
Oh,
right?
it's so true, because one of the things that you've helped me with is really zeroing in on my zone of genius and spending as much time there as I can. So I imagine that's the same for everyone who has a calling and they're great at something, and maybe technology isn't it, but that's where I come in.
Well, and it's interesting, right? Because we kind of have this thought that we're supposed to do everything alone, like everything. We're
Oh
supposed to
my
be good at
gosh.
everything. We're supposed to do it all. We're supposed to do it alone. And it's interesting because I re-listened to your podcast episode last night, and I was like reinvigorated and re-inspired. And it'll be, I think, fun for you to listen to it, right? Because we recorded that
Yeah.
back in like May or June, I think. So you probably have even more transition since then. So tell me a little
Absolutely.
bit. I do want to have a little bit of info on where you're at and how
Mm-hmm.
this manifested, and then we'll get into our mindset tip for the day.
Sure. Yeah. I moved back to the Los Angeles area after almost 30 years in the Bay Area. And because it was the beginning of COVID, I decided to take a roommate because I was so lonely. I was paying all this money for this place that, wasn't aligned. And then I just kind of made a series of interesting pivots with where I lived. And after the manifestation and the vision boarding workshop that we did with you,
When was that?
really,
Was
oh
that? Do you
gosh,
remember?
I can't even remember.
Is it the beginning of summer or maybe like April,
Yeah,
May?
honestly, yeah, it was. And so I began to get really clear on where I wanted to be. I've always wanted to be at the beach. I've always wanted to, just so my energy was calling me there for a long time, but there was something in my mindset and my thought, which we'll get to later, that told me, oh, it's too expensive, or, maybe you shouldn't like spend that much money on this. And there were just these limiting thoughts, which is when we get to the mindset tip, I'm going to talk a little about that. And so I call this a series of spiritual breadcrumbs. I was at an event on the beach, and I saw this guy, and I call him the White Rabbit from the Matrix. He's my White Rabbit. And I saw him, and he was dancing through everybody with headphones on, and he was just feeling the energy of people. And I was like, oh, he's someone. Fast forward 2 weeks later, July 10th, I am coming out of a creative session with one of my clients in Venice, same place, walk out, and I see the guy again. And I'm like, what is going on? So I go up to him. I'm like, I just saw you like 2 weeks ago on the beach. And he goes, yeah, I'm Dave. And this guy is like a Rastafarian, like a white guy with dreads and no shirt. And he wears a boombox and he twirls everywhere. I wish I could make this up, but I'm not making it up. So we said, what are you doing? And he says, I'm going to a party at the Mystic Manor. And I was like, the Mystic Manor? What is that? And I go, well, can we come? And I go, tell us the address. He goes, well, I don't know the address. I just know how to get there. So I said, okay, if I give you a ride to your car, can we follow you? And he says, sure, why not? So I take him to his car, and it is a purple painted Winnebago called the Holy Spirit.
Oh my gosh.
And we follow him.
Only in Venice, though, right? Like people, I'm in North Carolina. Well, and the reason I'm going to say this is because I live in North Carolina now. I lived in Southern California for 9 years. Like, this is normal. There's so many spiritual people there. There's so many, like, it's kind of like you're free to be whoever you want to be in that environment. So I just I want to make a point, like right now, just to say, like, look at how him being himself attracted you, and you being yourself, like, just trusting the energy. Like, let me talk to this guy. Okay. And then what happened? So the Holy Spirit, Winnebago.
So the Holy Spirit, we follow him, we pull up, and I'm looking at this house and I'm like, okay. I walk in, it's July 10th, and it says there's this little QR code to say, would you like to live here? Scan this and you fill out application. So I didn't do it for a few days. That was July 10th. I got a call July 20th, and I moved in on July 31st.
Oh my gosh.
So it's it's one of those things. Yeah. I just followed the white rabbit, and it led me here. And so
I think this is part of everything, right? Like, this is part of your mindset, which you're like, we're going to get to it, but this is a demonstration of. And when I teach quantum leaping, like, I think this is quantum leaping, which is like, you had in your mind, you had in your heart that you wanted to live at the beach. And I feel like for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, even, you were like holding the faith, but there was still some blockage. But I also want to say, like, what is the thing? I want to really break it down for people. Like, manifesting can happen very quickly, so quick. And I think we think it's going to take a long time. Can you pinpoint what the shift was for you that, like, opened you up to this opportunity?
Well, it was a combination of two things, and we used this in our coaching together, and it was thrust, and it was the combination of faith and trust. I set my intention, and then I got out of the way, and I trusted that the right thing would appear at the right time. And it really goes to mindset. And what the biggest takeaway is, my thoughts determine my reality. If I think I can, or I think I can't, either way, I'm right. I know it's very cliche, but it's so true, because it's the way that I would think about things. And it would be the way that I would either deem myself worthy or unworthy of having something. Who are you? It's like getting rid of the too big for your britches syndrome. I don't know if anyone has ever been told that in their life. You know, who are you? You're getting too big for your britches. Well, guess what? I got big britches. Yeah. And I intend on filling them at all times. So if you didn't get the memo, if that offends you, I'm not for everyone, and that's okay. Yeah. But my britches are big.
Yes. Okay. So interesting, because this is what I think people know, but one of my coaches that I follow says, if you're knowing and not doing, then you don't know. Right. But how do you do mindset, and how do you change your thoughts? Because you were having those thoughts of, how can I, this isn't me, like all of those background noise. What was the actual practice that you did to shift into faith, trust, thrust?
Well, I mean, vision boarding, going back and looking at my vision board often. Journaling is a big one. I had a little bit of a blockage around meditation. So I just call it quiet time.
Oh, beautiful.
Because, quiet time where I listen to my inner voice, and I replace the thoughts, with more positive thoughts, ones that are more affirming to me. And the other thing I do is, at the end of every day, I put my phone away, and the last 15 minutes my eyes are open are just focused on all the things, all the abundance that's around me. And it's a gratitude practice. And so they say that when you're getting ready to go to bed, everything that happens after is in your subconscious. And we know that that's where a lot of these thought forms live. So for me, by setting my intention as I go to sleep, it's like telling my brain, all is well, all is safe.
Mm,
You have
mm.
everything you need. Because honestly, in this moment right now, what else do I need? Nothing.
Yes. Oh, I feel that on a deep level from you right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it because you're breaking it down so simply, like just
Mm-hmm.
change your thoughts, right? But let's talk about the resistance because you
Mm-hmm.
brought that up. And many people have resistance to meditating,
Mm-hmm.
journaling, vision
Mm-hmm.
boarding, law of attraction. A lot of my clients can't get they can't get on board with your thoughts create your reality because they're like, well,
Mm-hmm.
I still have to do things. And I
Mm-hmm.
tell them, well, yeah, you have to do things, but you have to quiet your mind and get into the intuitive state
Mm-hmm.
to be guided into intelligent action or inspired action. But
So
talk to
true.
me about resistance because you dealt with it in a really cool way where you're like, well, I was having resistance against meditating. Most of what people do will just go, oh, yeah, I can't do that. And they would just
Mm-hmm.
not do it. How do you deal with resistance when the resistance comes up?
Well, you know, I'll talk about my process. I certainly don't want to preach to anyone or make them feel any kind of way or judged. But I will say for me, resistance equals fear.
Mm,
Fear that I might fail, fear that I'm not enough. I come with a significant amount of trauma that I've healed. And one of those after effects, chemtrails of trauma, if you
mhm,
will, is the thought that I'm not enough, that
mhm,
somehow I'm not as smart, capable, whatever. So resistance is almost always that little nagging voice in my ear
mhm,
that says, oh, that's too much, or you're too much, or you're not enough. There's always
mhm,
about like a judgment I was making. So resistance for me was fear. So how I replace that is I have a few pages in my journal that are just affirmations for myself that when I find
mm,
myself in resistance, I revisit those pages and read those mantras to myself
mm,
because I had an awful lot of years of hearing those messages from others who were supposed to raise me up in a way that I felt valued. And unfortunately,
mhm,
that wasn't my journey, as a lot of people probably have that as well. But rather than being victimized, I'm victorious over it because I choose not to allow it to stop me. Some
mm,
days it does. I'm not going to sit here and say every day is roses and candy because it's not. Yet I have tools that I can consistently go back to. So sometimes I know in the past, before I worked with you, I would just kind of get stuck in this spiral, right?
mm,
I would just spiral of thoughts, one negative thought after the next. And then pretty soon I didn't feel like I could get myself out of it. So
mhm,
now when I start to feel myself spiral, I just go to my tools. I go to my
mm,
journal. I'll take a walk. I'll take a
mm,
bath. I'll call a friend. And I think another thing is being able to have people in your life that you can be vulnerable with, not as to
mm,
call and like dump your stuff on them, but really a reciprocal relationship with someone who really loves you enough to hold sacred space for you when you're in those spirals. So
mhm.
another tool that I use is don't do it, reach out. Don't be afraid
Yeah.
to admit when you're in resistance or you're having fear. And I'm blessed to have several people that if I really needed them, they would drop what
Mhm,
they were doing and talk to me. So again, community is everything. And that's why I
mhm,
love what you're doing because there's a community of people who are there to support each other. So
mm.
that makes it so amazing.
I love that. I think what you really articulated well was you stopped resisting the resistance
Mm-hmm.
and you started to just say, "Oh, let me name this. It's resistance." And let me go, "Oh, I have some tools." And
Mm-hmm.
you can revisit your journal, you can call a friend, you can do movement,
Mm-hmm.
or you can just allow yourself to have a down day. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that's what we need. And the next day we're like, "Oh, I'm so glad I didn't resist feeling bad. I just felt bad for a day. And now I woke up
It
feeling better."
it's so interesting. Again, another spiritual breadcrumb this morning as I was thinking about this conversation and I was just kind of going through social media a little bit. I saw something that really resonated today and I'd love to
Mhm.
share. It said that I got the best advice from my therapist, and that advice is when you're having a mentally challenging day, treat it like you're sick. get in bed, sleep as much, take care of your body, drink lots of fluids, because it is a form of, not being at ease. And how does one heal themselves? I think for me, that has been one of the greatest challenges that I've overcome, is listening to my body and resting when I need to. I was just always, the busy factor, right? Always, into something as a way to not feel what was happening. So the more that I just tune in to that small inner voice, and I'm like, yeah, today's a little challenging. Let me just slow down and see where I can support myself. So again, it's also just listening to yourself and valuing yourself enough to take the time to really focus on what it is you need. I think as women, well, for me as a mom, I was always doing things first for other people and almost always last for me. So I learned to prioritize myself and fill my cup, because if my cup's full, I have nothing to give. If it isn't full, then I have nothing to give anyone else. And I know these things that I'm saying are not things that are new. I didn't invent them, but there comes a time when these things start to really just resonate at a soul level. And that's where I feel fortunate enough to be, where these things that I've heard for a long time are now I'm embodying them, which is amazing.
Yes. And I feel like even today, everything we hear, it plants a seed, and that seed will develop in its right time for everyone. So I love that you've come at this with a non-judgment for others and the path and where they're at. And then also, you had said this before, you've learned to become a human being rather than a human doing. So can you speak to that as we wrap up here? Because I know a lot of people are still stuck in, I need to do all the things and I need to perform and achieve. So how did you get yourself to a place with being okay with having a lower energy day, or maybe not getting as much done in a day?
Well, I think for me, as I wrap up, I think the important
We lost you for a minute. We'll give it a couple moments for you to come back. If anybody is tuning in live too, I would love to see your comments. Let me know if you're on here, and we'll see if we can get her back. Oh, bummer. She popped out. I'm going to take a few moments and I'll just chat about some things that are coming up until she comes back on. I'm really excited to announce that I am writing a book. It is called It's Happy Now. And if you're interested in getting information on that book, it will be coming out next month in October. I am looking for some people to do advanced reading and write reviews for that. And if you wanted to be part of that and get on board with this book, it is the happiness hand guide for high achievers. So head over to my website, cammykennedy.com/perfect, and sign up for that. Oh, Brian, cool. I'm glad to see you on here. Hearing some familiar themes here. Yeah, it's very common. And just know that it's a practice, right? All of this that we're talking about is a practice, which is why I work with my clients for 6 months, is because these things don't happen overnight, right? These things happen over a lifetime, and you continue to deepen into these practices over time. So let me just double check with her, see if she can hop back on. And then if you have any, okay, perfect. She's coming back in. I love it. We got you.
I will tell you, technology, good thing I know how to do what I do
I
to
know.
get back here. And I apologize to the audience. I had my phone on Do Not Disturb, but a call got through. I think it was my son, because he's on my exception list.
I get it.
So in wrapping up, the transition from a human doing to a human being is recognizing the opportunity that I have to either give it. Does it resonate or is it dissonant? How does it feel in my body? And if it feels like this, and I know this is a feeling, if it feels like, ooh, and I always have a saying, don't should on yourself. So I'm looking at what are the shoulds that are going into my mind right now, and then just lovingly redirecting and asking myself, can this wait? Is what I'm, proposing doing more important than my well-being? And almost always the answer is no. So again, it just comes back to prioritizing yourself and giving yourself the grace and permission to be wherever you are. I listened to this guy, Matt Kahn, and one of the things that he says that has helped me is whatever arises, love that.
Mm.
So whatever arises for me, love on it. Speak to it, allow it.
Yes.
But
Yes.
whatever I resist is I fear, whether it's an idea or that somehow things won't turn out right.
Mhm.
So for me, I just love myself enough finally to allow whatever comes up to be okay.
Yes.
Because I'm okay at every moment. I'm safe, I'm protected, I'm loved, and I'm valued. And I have so much to be grateful for in my life.
Mhm.
And you helped me get here,
Mm.
Cami. So
Mm. Thank you.
I,
And it took
mhm,
it took you, and this is the interesting part, right? It takes, as you develop self-worth and
mhm,
self-love, it takes some scary action, like investing
mm,
in yourself or like just taking those
mm,
steps. So I want to honor you too, that what I do is not done alone, right? The client does the work.
yeah,
I hold the container and the space. So I also want to
totally.
honor you for how you've shown up in the world, how you continue to be a light. And I want to give people an opportunity to connect with you. If you want to let them know your Instagram or your website,
Sure.
I know you have some free offers. I think you said you could do a tech review for people, but anything else
Yes.
that you want to offer for people to connect with you?
Yes, I think the best way where I've been having the most wonderful conversations is on Instagram, and
Mhm.
it's at I am Tresenia. And you can DM me. We can set up a free discovery call. It could be around tech. It could be around me teaching. It could be around just general coaching. Or if you just want to make a connection, you feel like I might be a member of your soul tribe, please feel free to DM me. I'm happy to begin the conversation and see where that white rabbit takes us.
I love it. Thank you so much for being on today, Tristina. I love it. We
You're
had some
welcome.
comments coming through too when you were off.
Mm-hmm.
Brian, one of my clients, says hearing some familiar themes here. So it's really helpful to have
I'm
a
so
past,
glad.
yeah, it's helpful to have a past client to come through with my current clients that are going through
Mm-hmm.
that process of like resisting, right? Like I'm resisting these new thoughts. And it's really cool to see you where you are and to see
Mm-hmm.
that at one time you were in resistance too. And you know what?
Oh,
We
yeah.
all are going to experience resistance, but what you so eloquently said was all of it is okay. Every emotion is okay. Every resistance is okay. Fear coming up is okay. And the more
Mm-hmm.
you allow is the more you expand into who
Mm-hmm.
you're becoming
Mm-hmm.
and attracting into your life what you
Mm-hmm.
desire. So I love it.
Yes.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so much for having
much.
me, Cami.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
Okay,
Bye.
take care. Bye bye.